to wait until, down the road in 2025.
Joseph, the only part about this I'm super curious about is the fact that the Big 12's grant of rights do run out on paper here in the next 4 years. So do you have any idea if these new schools have been given any type of an assurance that, hey, there's going to be a re-signing of the grant of rights or an extension by the original 8 so that this thing does have that lasting power? Or is there a chance that these new schools join and then in 3 years we're doing this all over again?
That I do not know. That has yesterday when we were reporting things, there's things that are just very fluid right now. I'm not sure where that stands. I caught the tail end of your conversation when I joined and about the money grab and sort of you try to get as much as you can from the two schools as they exit. And some people told me they thought that the Big 12 would wait up until the last hour so that they could maximize how much they got, because let's face it, when those two schools leave, the money's just not going to be like they're used to. So I do not know how the grant of rights is going to be figured out in this, but from Houston and Cincinnati and Central Florida's case, they're going into a better situation money wise regardless. They're gonna they stand to go from probably 10 million to somewhere in that, maybe low to mid 20s, I would guess.
Yeah.
Maybe. So it's going to be a win-win for them. Plus the exposure and the caliber opponents that they're going to be playing.
It won't be SEC or Big Ten money, but it will, and it won't be as much as what the 8 remaining Big 12 schools are getting annually, along with Texas to Oklahoma. But the number that I got, and I didn't know what it was going to be, would be somewhere in the lower to mid-20s. If they can do that, that would be a win, because there were thoughts that this could be 12, 15 million or whatever, and every million, of course, it spends. And also, Joseph, now, there was a report, I believe Max Olson, I'm not sure for sure, but that said that Bowlesby was on campus. I mentioned some other schools in which that have been visited, some may be preliminary, some that are a little bit more entrenched in this. Is that what you've heard as well? And have you also heard that the Big 12 might offer those who eventually do join, that they invite and are accepted, that they would give them the possibility of helping a little bit with the exit fees as well?
No. On the last part, I have not heard about the exit fees. In the American, UConn paid, I believe it was $17 million to get out early. Now you got Tillman Fertitta here, so he's been wanting this Big 12 thing for years. I don't know how well the casino business and the food business is doing, but I think they'd be able to somehow work that out if they wanted to do it on their own and get out. As far as Bowlesby, we did hear he was on campus. We did not see him at a Landry's restaurant. He wasn't at any of Tillman's restaurants that we know of. But that was the big thing. They came away in 2016 very upset that when they made their presentation, some of the big wigs, the leadership of the Big 12 weren't even in those presentations and in those meetings. And that's why when they walked out, they knew that this thing wasn't going anywhere. So if in fact Bob Bowlesby was on campus, that's not only a good sign, but I think it shows where this thing is going. But everybody I've talked to associated with Houston really feels like at the earliest by next week, they're going to have an announcement to make that, a long desired destination is finally in hand.
Hey, Joseph, we had you on yesterday, and then, as you mentioned, my goodness, the changes in 24 hours, the positivity that it seemed like for the University of Houston, but also for what is the Big 12, if in fact this train is going down the tracks pretty fast, and it seems like it might in fact be that way, whether the timeline is in a year, 2 or 3 or whenever. We don't know. But it does seem like things have changed very rapidly and proactively, and the Big 12 trying to find a way to survive this thing, along with bringing in the 4 schools, and it looks like Houston could be one of those, or it looks like they pretty much are. Of course, that remains to be seen. Thanks. Is it like a big day for the University of Houston campus and athletic department? And, I've thought about this. Mack Rhoades, former Houston AD, we said this to you yesterday. He knows what the value can or cannot be, right? And how much do you think that might help?
I think that helps a lot to have Mack Rhoades at the seat. And, I was talking with some people late yesterday, and it was an interesting point brought up that, now with Texas and Oklahoma out, you look at the influence that Boone Pickens had at Oklahoma State, and now that, he passed away, there's not a huge power broker, so to speak, in the conference. You look at some of the guys that are out there. Drayden McClain, might be up there now on the Baylor side, but this is a chance for Houston to not only come in, but Tillman Fertitta could have a bigger say or a bigger seat at this table, and that's all they've ever wanted. So I think that is interesting. They're just happy to have a seat. I don't think they're gonna have any arguments over what their power is versus the other ones. But it has certainly gone from a near death blow for the Big 12 to not only survive, but to land, which are probably the four best group of five schools. You could make an argument for Memphis. Boise State has its case at times. But to get these four schools, that would probably be the best case scenario that they could have ever come out of this with.
Thank you, Joseph. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Twice back to back. Keep doing what you do. Joseph Duarte from the Houston Chronicle on the University of Houston, and where we are since we were here yesterday talking about it with him as well. We'll have Sam Conn at 4. Grayson's going to join us momentarily on Baylor and Texas State, among others.